Have you ever stopped to think about this wild, almost primal human dream we've had for centuries? The dream of gathering all the world's knowledge, every story, every idea, into one single place, a universal library. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, this epic, ongoing quest to build the ultimate archive.
But here's the catch, and this quote just nails it. This isn't just a story about ambition. It's a story about fragility. For every incredible library we build, there's this shadow, this constant fear that it could all just disappear. It's this never-ending battle between our need to remember and the fact that, well, the universe kind of wants to forget.
And in this fight, we've got two main champions, separated by 2 millennia. On one hand, you have the legend, the Great Library of Alexandria, a literal fortress of ancient scrolls. And on the other, its modern ghost, the Internet Archive, this sprawling digital universe of data. This is their story, and you'll see they have more in common than you'd think.
Okay, so let's get into it. Even though these two projects are worlds apart, papyrus versus petabytes, they share the exact same DNA. They're both born from that same fundamental human ambition, to build a library of everything.
But this is where their paths really diverge, the why. For the Ptolemies in ancient Alexandria, the library was all about power. It was a state-sponsored trophy case, a way to centralize knowledge and shout, "We are the center of the world." But Brewster Kahl, the founder of the Internet Archive, his vision was the polar opposite. It was about decentralizing, about giving universal access to everyone. A truly democratic idea.
So how in the world do you even begin to collect, well, everything? The scale of both these projects is just mind-boggling. Let's take a look at what they were up against.
Now, you have to put yourself back in the ancient world. In that context, Alexandria's collection was staggering. We don't have exact numbers, but estimates range from a conservative 40,000 scrolls to a whopping 700,000. Look, even the lowest number is just a colossal amount of the world's knowledge for that time.
And then there's this. Today, the Internet Archive has saved over 1 trillion web pages. 1 trillion! It's a number so big our brains can't really even process it. It dwarfs anything that has ever come before. This is that universal library dream on a scale that is, frankly, astronomical.
And Alexandria didn't just sit back and wait for donations. Oh no. They were aggressive. They had this amazing policy where they would board every single ship that docked in their port, seize any scrolls or books they found, and then, and get this, they'd have their scribes copy them, and more often than not, they kept the originals and gave the copies back to the owners.
Okay, so if this place was so important, so monumental, how did it just vanish? We've all heard the story, right? The single, catastrophic fire that burned it all to the ground. Well, the truth, it's a lot messier, and honestly, a lot more tragic than that.
The library didn't die in one fiery blaze. It died a slow death by 1,000 cuts. Sure, there was a fire during Caesar's time, but that probably just hit some warehouses by the docks. The real damage happened over centuries. A devastating siege here, the destruction of the entire district there, and finally, a religious decree that saw its sister library torn down. It wasn't an event. It was an erosion.
And this is what that slow death really cost us. It wasn't just scrolls. It was entire branches of human thought. Imagine, we lost Aristotle's complete work on the nature of comedy. Over 90% of the poetry of Sappho. Gone. Foundational works on astronomy and medicine. Just vanished. The loss is simply incalculable.
Which brings us right back to today. Our modern digital library isn't threatened by invading armies or fire. No, its enemies are much quieter, much more insidious. We're talking about things like bit rot, link rot, and perhaps the biggest threat of all, lawsuits. So what exactly are these things? Well, think of bit rot as digital rust. It's the slow, inevitable physical decay of the hard drives and servers that store our information. It's the modern version of papyrus turning to dust. And link rot? Oh, you've definitely run into this one. It's when you click a link in an old article and get that 404 not found page. The information isn't just unavailable, it's gone. And this chart shows just how fast our digital world is crumbling. It's actually kind of terrifying. For links and citations that are less than 5 years old, most of them, 87%, still work. But just wait 10 years, that number plummets to 38%. More than half of our own recent history is already broken and lost on the live web.
But the most immediate existential threat to the Internet Archive isn't technical decay, it's legal.
The modern fire isn't a flame, it's a lawsuit. And the whole battle revolves around this one key idea: controlled digital lending. It's the simple concept that a library should be able to lend out a digital scan of a physical book it owns, one person at a time, just like a regular book.
And in the huge court case between publishers and the Internet Archive, the court sided with the publishers. Looking at this breakdown, you can see their logic. The court basically said, 1, this isn't transformative, you're not creating something new, you're just making a substitute. And 4, that substitute directly hurts the market for licensed ebooks. It was a massive legal blow, and it threatens the very idea of a digital public library.
So, okay, things are looking a little bleak. We have decaying data on one side and legal challenges on the other. So how do we fight back? How do we actually engineer a library that can't be burned down or sued out of existence? Well, the first line of defense is a surprisingly simple but powerful rule that people in the tech world live by, the 3-2-1 strategy. It means you keep at least 3 copies of your data, you store them on at least 2 different types of media, and you keep at least one of those copies completely off-site. It's the bedrock of modern data survival.
But the real game changer is a total shift in how we find stuff online. The old web works like a street address. A URL points to one specific location. If that server goes down, the content is gone. But the new web, it works differently. It uses content addressing. A file is identified by its unique digital fingerprint, and you can grab it from anyone on the network who has a copy. The library is suddenly everywhere at once.
And here's an amazing little piece of historical poetry for you. Guess where one of the primary backups of the Internet Archive is located? In the new, modern Library of Alexandria in Egypt. That's right, the descendant is now helping to preserve its digital ancestor. It's just incredible.
So when you boil it all down, all these complex strategies, all this technology, it comes down to one simple, powerful idea, perfectly captured by what's called the Loxis principle. Lots of copies keep stuff safe. That's it, redundancy. It's our only real shield against losing everything. So this is what the future of permanent memory looks like. It's not one big, vulnerable building, it's a ghost. It's distributed across decentralized networks, it's mirrored on servers all across the globe, and it's even stored completely offline in super secure vaults like the Arctic World Archive, literally buried in permafrost.
And that brings us full circle, back to the real lesson from Alexandria. The important story isn't about some mythical fire. It's the realization that knowledge doesn't die in a big explosion. It dies quietly. It fades away from decay, from neglect, and from a world that just slowly stops caring.
Which leaves us with one final, and I think pretty crucial question to think about. We've seen the threats evolve, from swords and fire to silent bit rot and legal briefs. So what's next? What's the invisible enemy we aren't even seeing yet that will threaten the library of the future?